think you might have missed a couple.
There's no organic, no herbicide allowed in town. It's got to be organic spray. Nothing organic that any of us know, including the herb, whatever big vote of the council. Can't come up with anything. They told me just last week we could try using salt or vinegar. Well, that's going to kill everything. So, what I'm asking now, the current state of the law is a disgrace. And herbicide is currently used on some beach reserves. So that is the thing that does get rid of it. So my simple request from the Golden Bay RSA, and I believe other members of the public, this by putting in a request, that the community board supports the RSA and recommends to council that an exemption be made to the no herbicide rule in Tarkett Township, specifically and only to eradicate honeycomb in the National Memorial Park. So I'm not concerned about anything else. It's just that park, as you see it, that is a significant part of our town that honours our war veterans. You know the rest. You go to anybody who's been to the Commonwealth War Graves over in France, there's thousands, hundreds of thousands, right? It's a beautiful and we need to do so. Thank you, appreciate it.
Thank you. So just, are there only, the pickles are only there when the little yellow flowers are there? Is that right? Just for my own.
That's right. It's sorry, it's the wrong time of the year, but I've been bashing on about this for a while.
No, that's not.
So and it needs to be sprayed basically in the spring. So it's a bit late this season, but I just wanted to show you what it looks like. If you've got kids or if you walk across the dead people, I challenge anybody to go across the dead.
Tingling already. Chris,
a question? Yes. Has this deterioration happened?
Yeah, it's got worse.
Yeah, so for a while, I guess for the first few years.
Yeah,
right?
That park's been open for 6 years,
yeah,
and it's been really well looked after. And it's just the last 2 years basically it's been a creeper, and it's really taking over. You can see that brown area there. It's kind of like one quarter of that park now. It's just this.
So it wasn't there before, and it's arrived. And
okay. Thanks, Noel.
Sure.
Okay, so that brings us to the end of our public forum.
Stop everyone.
Great, thank you, everybody. Okay, so does anybody have any declarations of interest on any items in this month's agenda? Lovely. Oh yes, thank you, Grant. Yep, so Grant, which is in the chief report. Thanks, Grant. So we'll move on to confirmation of the minutes from the 8th of November. Would anyone like to move those as true and correct?
Were they in my electronic agenda, the minutes seem to be attached, or maybe I just wasn't.
Was it on the new phone system?
They didn't come through LG Hub.
LG Hub. Ah.
Yeah, they didn't come through on LG Hub, their previous minutes.
Oh,
okay.
So I'm the only one that's.
I mean, I would have had to have gone back and I tried to go back and search for them and I couldn't find them. Okay, so if they can be just attached next time.
Yes. Well, I'm happy to move that they're true and correct, but I don't suppose anybody wants to second them without seeing them. That's a pause. That's a pause.
You have to hold that over
to next meeting. Yeah, hold that over. Okay. Oh, Chris.
Now, where is it intended that they'll be attached or deposited? Generally,
they should be in LG Hub
under community board.
Yeah, and it is possible that they didn't upload.
Could you mention it a while ago, Robert, and I said, oh no, they'll be there once they can. Oh, on the website. But you were meaning LG Hub. Yeah. Sorry. Robert's fault. He wasn't very clear.
Can we have them put up back onto the agenda to go in front of the agenda like we used to as well?
I think you're talking of
No,
are you meaning through Diligent? That was a way we were able to insert them that way through Diligent, but we don't have the same functionality in LG Hub. There will be a separate document in there. I obviously didn't upload them into.
They'll be right there, won't they? Just coming in minutes.
Yeah. Cool. So we'll put those to the February meeting. Okay, thank you. Sorry, Robert, I wasn't. I should have been more onto it then. So that is on hold. Okay, so we do have a couple of late items. A late correspondence item was distributed by email to withdraw a discretionary funding application from the Village Theatre Society. I apologies, I forgot to add board member feedback onto the chair report, so we will add that in as we go through the chair report. It's just feedback to many meetings where I've attended of your various committees. And the Waka Kotahi submissions we will add in as a discussion item as well. So I'm happy to move they be accepted as late items. If I could have a second, seconded by Harper. Thank you. All those in favour?
Aye.
Great. And that brings us to our first presentation and Jean. The Mokoa Marine Restoration.
Yes, Mahua Marine Trust. And thank you for this opportunity to address you this afternoon. Good day to you all. I'm standing next to Neil Wilson, Eugene Klein, Jane for short. We started the Mahua Trust about attempting 2 years ago. We've had our ups and downs with COVID and a couple of losses of key people that were involved with us. Things have been slowed down. Back on speed again, and I think we can make some progress. So Jess has loaded up a 3-minute video for you to see. We'll watch that first, and then we'll make some quick comments after that. Thank you for your attention. Good day. Well, thank you very much for watching that. Some pretty strong data. Numbers that we're talking about. And we are pretty much wanting to put these results in our pilot site. And you heard them talk about coral reefs. We don't have coral reefs per se here, but we do have rhizome, which are salt corals. And they're pretty much gone. Used to be abound. Reports of 1.5 meters. Now with different scientific studies in the past few years, we're looking to see them They're a basis of a food chain, and from there, everything else. So we would like to restore this, that could help you. That's got a few things we want to read you about.
Will it go to? Clive Barker's been appearing before this board for 15 years that I know about, banging on about reef balls and marine restoration. He gets his 10 minutes, he puts his blue jacket on and goes back to Blenheim and nothing happens. And his banging on to me when I was a week led to my interest in the project. The original members approached me because somebody thought the next people they needed to talk to once they got started. Assuredly did the next people they needed to talk to were marketing. Here's a list of the people we've reached out to in the last 2 months. Manawhenua Moho, Bay High School, Common Areas for the Tasman District Council, Department of Conservation, Heritage New Zealand, New Zealand Sports Fishing Council, Legacy, Methane Mitigation Ventures, Guardians of the Sea Trust, Nelson Underwater Club, Marine Farmers Association, Forest and Boom, Golden Bay Community Trust, Cooper Pogo Society, obviously the Reef Ball Trust in Florida, and Tara, or the Sea Anglers Club, plus key community members, perhaps Clan, also names, Bob and Joan Butts, Tom Sturgis, and Kevin Winter, Philip Simpson, and of course the esteemed Clive Barker, Lennon. In 2020, in April, we presented to the Tasman District Council full council meeting, where we received, it's on one of our councillors, A1 gold standard response from council. We were asking 2 things. One, no anchor zone at separation point to protect what's left of the dry zones out there, and a survey of what there is out in the bay right now. TDC jurisdiction extends 12 miles out. The latest environment plan talks about from the mountains to the sea. That means maybe they're 12 miles short. So there's a lot of stuff out there that we don't know about, and it's in the TDC jurisdiction. Like I said in my submission plan, we're a community groups ready to help. But TDC does its thing. No need to reiterate what Jean said about the rider zones, except to say that at one point it's widely understood that commercial fishermen were dragging up quite a bit of they, because they're soft, because they're probably very slow growth. No need to reiterate the benefits of reef balls, except to say that this outfit has been active in 70 countries, and they've placed at least 750,000. Florida, if you choose to, you can have your ashes turned in a reef ball, a memorial reef ball forever. Rallies can provide down the table. We know that they do good things for the habitat. We know that they, within very short time of being placed in the water, that they are invaded by species. We put them there, they would come often within, and that means fish, but also weed, radical, so on and so on. We think they also have, we're hoping, a real potential for the seaweed that Tom Sturgis is so interested in following up as a methane mitigation measure. We got a long-term vision, and I'd love to share that with you. We have designed reefs in strategic places, enhancing the marine habitat. We see potential for seaweed scallops, perhaps mussels certainly, tourism attraction, diving and fishing. Our reefs are used by local schools as part of their aquaculture studies. We have valuable relationships with corporate partners who piggyback on our higher environmental status and demonstrated success. We have a large paid-up membership of GB people and outside supporters, and our website is an acknowledged source of up-to-date information. Everybody we've spoken to has said we're right. Nobody has said you're mad. lowest level support is supported principle. Some people have said where the word children. And that includes a growing group of professional biologists who will come in, professional as you can see, elderly. Thank you very much for your attention. Are there any questions?
We are open to questions, but we'd also like to say that if you do agree with us in James, that we would most appreciate more support regarding this matter. Perhaps to the extent that you would endorse us to the council on the other side of it. And we're ready for some questions.
Sorry, I'm just trying to. Chris and Celia.
Good to see you again, and we'll be pleased to be up and active again. In terms of the project at Lekaka, what are the next steps to that getting going, things happening?
Well, we just finished our rough draft proposal. Had it not been for the proximity to the holiday, it would probably be submitted within weeks. So we'll wait till after the new year. We'll submit it after the new year, and you will get a more specific idea of what our plans are. It won't be completely finished. We haven't put all items into it. That is an indicative proposal that we're hoping to include.
We want to describe what's already at Waikaka. So we know that there's an accidental artificial reef at Waikaka because the wharf has collapsed. And we've dived on that and we've got video evidence of what happens if the stuff grows. Adjacent to that, without disturbing it, because of our relationship with Heritage New Zealand, we can come out, follow that shape with reef boards to, if you like, build on the size of the artificial reef. You know that soon as there is structure above the sediment level, that thing's coming. So there'll be a proposal to TDC under their regulations for feasibility study, scientific purposes, and that other support.
That's the main support. This is not going to be through a form of consent. This is using TDC's own regulations to achieve the scientific study.
That's for question 2. Is it just to do? So you would definitely require a consent, and so the regulations it comes under, it's a application form to scientific study.
25.1. And I might add that there have been 3 refall projects already placed in New Zealand back in 2000 or about. Those refalls are still in the water, but things went so bad, stressed out as far as the environment, and they didn't get the support. However, there are agencies in North Island we work with. They are in the midst of sinking a large trawler. And the plan is to place a good deal of refalls, artificial reef. So we're on the cutting edge.
So Celia and then Celia question.
Yeah, I just that was partly answered my question, but I just wondered if you're part of the group of Tanya Bray. I think Tanya Bray, the planner, is formed group to.
Yes, we are.
Yeah, that's what I've
Form the group to.
of marine interest group. Marine interest group. Yeah, that's been done for a while.
We've attended.
Yeah. CJ and Brown.
Yeah, just a few little comments picking up on some of your observations. The separation work rhizome corals, they've been protected from fishing for 42 years and they've gone without fishing. So there's another insidious problem that is taking away our rhizomes, which
Sedimentation, many problems.
yeah, and the source of that sedimentation is pretty well understood. That was the core samples have revealed when and where it's come from. So there's some observations there to factor in about resilience of any conditions to the sea. The second thing I just want to point out is that there's been some advancements in some of the reclamations that have been done. Wellington Airport is an example, and the Chatham Islands port, where other, not so much those balls you're talking about, but other features have been used to knit in the shoreline, and they've also resulted in increased biodiversity. And so there might be other options for you to explore other than that particular technique.
And we are investigating those.
Yeah. And the final thing is, I'm not so sure, and you want to check this, that in the pursuit of scientific study, that it would authorise additions to the marine environment in that way. I suspect that it is a consenting obligation that will flow through that, and that might be something we just want to keep your eye on.
Well, we'll cross that bridge when we get to it, I guess. We weren't aware of that. We heard that we did meet those standards. We'll find out. Yeah.
Thank you.
Jordan, just from a conversation several years ago with a NIWA scientist, my understanding too was that a part of the sedimentation problem is that the trawling removed the natural features that channeled sediment in a flood event on the seafloor. And so restoring artificial reefs out there may actually also have that impact of restoring diversity in the sea floor by channeling sediment so that when there's a big flood, critters can climb up out of the mud, and then as it solidifies, they can repopulate it and things. So you get the contours back.
May I comment as to what CJ just said? We discovered, one of our members who's a diver, filmed underwater the remains of the collapsed wharf at Uncovered, which was what was presented to the full council meeting. And it's quite apparent, quite evident, that the collapsed wharf being above the sediment all around it is an oasis of life. This is what the artificial provide everywhere.
You've got a website?
It's about to go live in 2 days.
I was just going to ask about that because I'm interested to hear or see the vision or what you actually, your action, what the progression is going to be and how the big picture is. So, it's great to tell a little bit about it now, but I'm really interested in the long term of this. So does that sort of cover it in the website? Yeah, good.
It's in development.
Yeah. What's the website address?
www.mahulamarintrust.org.
So we're hoping that the website will become a kind of dumping ground for academic as well as a kind of blog site for our informal stuff. For example, a field trip by the Nelson Underwater Club. They want to dive on the wreck out in the bay and possibly also investigate the area around the Parker, just as part of their normal club activities. That kind of thing could easily become just kind of us talking to our people as well as some place for
Yes, so in terms of Heritage New Zealand, we had a formal response to them saying we want to do assurance. In terms of Heritage,
3 or 4 different contacts with this main staff at Heritage. And she has said all of the following. Enhancing our heritage site often makes it better because it attracts more people there. So not opposed to the principle, which is why I said no, that you said that above. We may be interested in what's in the sediment underneath the wharf because it may be archaeologically interesting vis-a-vis what is built out. We want to go in and sediment up. So the next step with this is this is what we're proposing to submit to council for your information.
Right. So our role is community board, asking for our support. How do we best do this? So that's the question. Is send this support? Make a motion. What's
Chris.
In response to the presentation, which was a very good presentation to council, I think the regulatory, the lead committee, yeah, yes. So I understood that from that there was going to be a response in terms of something, and so that might be something that we can pick up to see where that landed, or whether it was actually, well, let's wait for the proposal until things are put together. And so that would be one thing, but yes, the board can write, of course, to council, but it may be, you know, council hasn't received anything yet, yes, formally. So maybe they're timing right about that.
Yeah, that would be good.
That's why I asked.
So just in response to those two things, that the response we got that day at council, at the Carnival level, was really enthusiastic, but nothing was minuted and nothing came until we asked what was happening. Then we got some communication that said two things we asked for were impossible to do.
Mr. Drummond's better.
Yeah, so that was the response.
Which was to do with
no anchoring at the separation point in the no cruiser and survey of the you know, to tell us what was there.
So you had a formal response from council to say these things aren't going to be a go. Okay.
And just while I will make this the last thing. Is there a key person in Mr. Drummond's department with whom we will be dealing? And is it possible that that person could be at a future Golden Bay community board meeting where we could come and have the conversation?
There's key people all throughout the council in a project like this, and I guess definition around, you know, precisely where you're tracking in terms of the proposal that you're advancing, it would help identify who that person is. So I think probably the answer will be yes, there will be a key person. Who that person might be and where they sit is a feature of where you put your proposal. But in the meantime, happy to maintain the dialogue with you to help provide those inroads into the organisation.
Yeah, and I think once we see the proposal one firstly, it's great. So I'd be happy to support the document once we eyeball it, as it were. Right.
Yeah, I was just going to sort of add to that. Chris Bennett's come through the whole council system and he's gained a lot of support and he's got a lot of momentum going, and I'm hoping that we can actually facilitate a similar sort of process as I see it. That's my hope, and it's not a question.
Are there any other points or comments from you? Henry?
I'm just taking it all in there. Yeah, fascinating project, and keen to see it.
Yeah, progression.
Roll on. Yeah, definitely. Sounds like a fantastic thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see lots of cool science, you know, research and surveys and things can be done with it. And yeah, keen to run with it as much as possible. Yeah.
Excellent. Cool. Oh, thank you very much for your presentation.
Well,
sorry.
Just one last thing. It'll be helpful, I think, to hear. It's just to keep informed or to know what's happening. So when you submit it, if you get the word back, actually a consent is required. You know, I think just to be able to have some regular updates, keeps us up to speed, and we're
absolutely.
You know, where we can to you get. I think there's a lot of supporting this and whatever we can be doing, I think, as a board and individually to help progress it. We will.
Yep.
No meeting in January.
No meeting in January. So February.
We will do it electronically.
Yep, you can email our board address and become part of correspondence, or you can email me directly. I can put it straight into the chair report. Just an update from the trust. Okay. Great. Oh, thank you very much. It's exciting because I remember it was closed. It came a few years ago to board, community board, and then it sort of. So it's good to hear that it's back. So thank you.
Thank you.
CJ, welcome.
You can dry your feet off now, come out of the ocean, onto the land. My blended environmental and community development hats on, I've been having conversations with folk about Riley Street, the extension that had become taken over by the Freedom Campus. Lynn Hall, our horticulture officer, has kind of joined me in understanding what I'm after, and I've spoken to Alan and David and Anne Ross, so Fran's children who are now running the farm that's either side of that gravel driveway, and they're fully in support. They would like it to, we would all like it to become more public access, people friendly, kids going down there for a swim after school, people walking their dogs down there. So the steps that I've kind of seen, I've also talked to John Ridd, took him there to say, you know, I see this as an easy, low-hanging fruit for Takaka Township. There's very little places in Takaka Township for people to walk that are nice, and that we could easily really enhance. So there's a gate going in a little further down. Talking with the Roses, they pointed out that another 20 metres further on would be better for the gate to then have it walking only from that new gate position. They've suggested by that concrete structure, because then that's their land either side and they would protect nobody going around it. So what's happened in the past is we've put gates and others have gone around them. Yeah. So that's bounding their land and they will protect the gate. So I would really encourage us to make sure that that gate goes down there. It's not kind of my head, but I would think it made sense. They're really happy for any trees to be planted. I had, bought things like a couple of concrete pads with some picnic tables bolted on. So if there is a flood, the table doesn't float away. But just easy places for people to stop and to feel public. Mowing it, so Parks and Reserves taking it over from roading. At the moment it's currently roading reserve. It became a Parks and Reserves job to mow it. That would instantly change it. I think it needs a little help on the gravel part to make it easier to walk. It's pretty rumpety at the moment. And a bulldozer down near the river to remove the kind of muddy four-wheel drive motorbike revving. There's a big muddy spin out place down there that's gross. So it would be really good to kind of re-establish all of it as a nice people place. And there's a little side thing for me in a dog owner, is there's not many places we can also safely take dogs. There's a lot of restrictions on coastal places because of wading birds and nesting birds, and then we've got national parks all around us. So again, I would love to see it being advertised and looked after as a place for take dogs. And again, the Roses are happy; they're not feeling threatened. We might want to put up a little more fencing, but they seem really relaxed about it at the moment. But I've spoken in the past with the likes of the Rural Service Centre and Solly's to sponsor a few little really robust dog agility things. So like some concrete tunnels that kids or dogs could, run through and jump over, and a little balance beam, and just a few safe, low to the ground kind of fun things, so that people had something fun to do with their dog as well as they could swim. And it would just become a lovely kind of community asset. Put a sign up saying, come on down to the river. So yes, I'm kind of keen on your support, and if the community board would like to help champion it, I'm opening all the doors I can for the project.
Thanks. Any questions? Chris, Terry? In terms of a process around how this goes from roading to reserves and budgets and annual plan thingies, and what's the deal there? Does it just come in under existing budget somehow, or does it need to be identified as a project and go through those sort of processes?
I'm not super sure. Hopefully the likes of Kim can answer it. But what Lynn Hall said to me was, come to the community board, and if you ask her to have it a reserve, then that empowers her to start making those changes. Yeah. She's on board with it. So it won't come as a surprise. She'll go, great, now I've got the tick I need to start moving this forward.
Good process question. Thanks, Chris. Try that, yeah.
If I could just add to that, my sense to that is there's obviously a degree of work that is funded and provided for in our work program.
Yeah.
And this is seems to be an angle of prioritisation into it. But it becomes one of the things that gets done with the money that's available, but it might, if it has supported a common set of perhaps something else.
Yes.
And that's the challenge to the organisations to provide for that. And the something else is obviously also a transparent decision. Guess what? You know, folk who are used to this, well, you know, things have changed. That's how we're going to make sure we don't have Lynn's workload without actually working against the trade.
Celia.
Thank you. So are you actually thinking of creating a dog park? You know, I don't know if I have that something to ask for the reason that you said. So
It would just be a dog access area to take them down to the riverbank for a swim. It's, you know, mostly introduced species, so it's not really a place of.
I mean, I'm not worried about it being a dog. I think I support it. I'm just wondering.
I have explored that, Celia, a little bit with the likes of Adrian Humphreys, who's been involved in one in Timaru, and he's quite keen. Right. The kind of the feel I've got is Takaka doesn't really have the population to need a dog park, but dog access areas like Painsford on a lead and like down to the river, and just really helping channel people. It's okay to have your hound here, I think is going to be really helpful. And, you know, part of that is the shade trees. You know, I would love for there to be more trees around town for dog owners. You know,
that's fine. That's answered my question. Thank you.
It wouldn't be great to have that sort of set up and going, and then just work our way towards getting a walking track down to the end of the bridge of Waikato.
Chris, like, this is one step of many in my head. Yes, I agree.
Yeah.
Yes.
That would be amazing.
Long
I keep chipping away at it. I've learned to do them in little bits.
Yeah, that's right. Then it's obvious, isn't it?
Yes.
Oh,
We just need to link back to that. I mean, that's what I'm doing on the Motor 50 as well. You know, trying to create walkways there. And,
Sorry, I thought there'd be more questions, so I put a whole candy cane in my mouth again.
Ground's going to help you.
Where do we sit? Where do we sit with the CLEC board? Do we go for making it happen somehow? And I'm really supportive of it.
I think our first step.
Clean it up and make it.
I think our first step, like what CJ said, would be to email Lynn.
yeah.
And say that we are in principle very supportive of this, and we'll let Lynn inform us of.
I think so. I think to hear back from staff about actually this is a pretty simple doer, or actually there's these slightly complicated things.
Yep. So I think that's our
like
first
just
step.
to get supportive and principle.
Yeah.
So shall we put it on our action sheet and wait to hear back from Lynn, maybe as the action, and have some sort of maybe is it really formal from her or informal?
Well, we'll send her our support, and then we'll see what she comes back with. CJ.
A little layer of information I've got here was I've explored this kind of dog thing down there for a few years now, and I did, you and I talked before, Abby, and it came back when it was going to remain as an engineering place that I had to have an organisation own any equipment or any picnic tables or anything. I was like, well, that ain't going to happen, you know. So it kind of just got shelved, but now we can actually have it adopted as more as a reserve. I'm still really happy to support, you know, Lynn in getting some donated equipment down there, and maybe a men's shed for build the tables, and you know, I'm really keen for it to have a community feel, for town to own it, and for it to be town's place.
Nice.
I just want to help enable it.
Yeah.
So you're talking about the big car park down there. That's basically turning that into a reserve, or is it
that and the drive, the walk down there? So there's a lot of grass and kind of gravel that between the
road will still be a road. So it's a reserve.
Only down as far
there's quite a few examples of road reserves being turned into parks.
Okay.
And just adopted and looked after in a different way. So simply mowing it every few months would make it a game changer.
Yeah.
Thank you, CJ.
Kia ora. We will be.
Send me an email to Lynn. Excellent. Where am I? Okay, so that brings us to a chair's report. Should we do the Waka Kotahi discussion in the late item first? We're going to chair's report.
Not because it continues to sort of line.
Yeah, okay. So our late item, and you will get a chance to read the email, was the Waka Kotahi submission closes tonight at 5 o'clock. So there were 2 points of board member Knowles and Councillor Butler wanted us to submit on, which was the 30k through town, which is the commercial street strip, and then 80k from Takaka to Collingwood. So normally good process, good policy would be that we would not submit to this because we haven't had a chance to do any sort of consultation. We haven't had any feedback from staff. Council themselves are not submitting to this talk tahi. I'm not clear on why. Kim's not clear on why. But however, we do have a little wiggle point where 30k through town has already been consulted and submitted on and is in the. I keep wanting to call it the active trans. Cycling active. That one. So there is that. So we have consulted, and that has come out as being something that the community would embrace. I'm very reluctant to go any near the 80 between Takaka and Collingwood without proper consultation and proper feedback from staff, but I'm very happy to put a submission and see there. I think you've given us some great wording, haven't you?
Yes, so you can I speak now?
Yeah, sorry. I finished it. I just find the wording.
No, just when you're ready.
No, I was just going to find the wording. Sorry, you go. Yeah, I'll find that.
Yeah, okay. So firstly, as regards the Collingwood to Takaka 80k, I'm been on the Tasman Regional Transport Committee for the previous term, and the communications person for Top the South at Cook Island had actually said specifically to me that they would be consulting on reducing the speed limit from Takaka to Collingwood at the end of this year, right? So that seems to have kind of vanished into the ether. And so when I asked her about that, she said it was 7. So anyway, so that was the basis on which I suggested that we actually put it into the submission. But you know, it was just only suggestion. Now the word comes from the fact that with Waka Kotahi, you have to fit into certain categories to actually, you know, for your change to qualify. It has to fit into a category, and that's why I put the wording in, because the wording is their categories. Yeah.
So the suggested wording was reduce speed in Takaka Township Main Street from 30k between Mortikippi Street and the Riley Street intersections with State Highway 60. This will provide for safer walking and cycling.
Yeah, so that's safer walking and cycling is one of the things.
One of the key. Yeah. Okay, so that would need to be.
Yeah, and that fits in with their strategy.
Yeah. Yeah. So I'm more than happy to for that to be submission. And Jess, we could for you to upload that explanation. But if we can wind the meeting up. We can actually wind the meeting up.
I can move that.
Yes, so moved by Councillor Butler. Yeah. Seconded by Deputy Chair Knowles. All those in favour? Oh, Chris, sorry, was I too speedy? You had it. Sorry, I might have been too speedy. You're an aye? Okay, great.
I think based on what you've said about the active transport strategy and what's outlined in that, and there was a big process to it, because we've got to be, I think, you know, with decisions to make extra time about whether we think we've been elected here and whatever we think goes, or whether with each issue we go out and say, hey, what goes?
Yeah,
you know, so that's where we get to some of these points.
And that was my
appreciate your question.
That was why I was like, oh, it sounds like I'm against the safety for children, but right.
It makes it very tricky though, and this is an example of when we don't have a lot of time and we can't actually go out and that does make it tricky. We can't consult.
Unfortunately, there
And it's
probably
not just
was.
that, not just this thing, it'll be other things.
How was it that we didn't?
How do we not get the information? Yeah, Chris Bennett gave it to us on
Thursday, Friday.
Thursday, Friday, yeah. So I guess we need to work on our relationship with Wapatahi as well and say, please bring us things like that. But I think, Chris, you had some wording.
Well, it was data there alluding to
Yes.
the fact that it was very, late in the piece that it was brought to the attention of the community. But then secondly, adding in that piece about alignment with the strategy, so it's something that you feel you can actually comment on now.
Yeah.
Which is in there, so that's sort of like reinforcing. But the third point was a degree of disappointment that other matters that have been basically circulating around the community in various ways, such as that 80 case people, was not actually given any sort of focus on the proposal. So sort of like pointing that out to say there's something missing.
I think it dropped out probably because of the strict criteria that Wapatahi and their draft plan.
Yeah. I wonder if it's with an email to is it Emma Spake, I think the common person or the something from Wapatahi. I wonder if it's with an email to Emma saying, hey, look, if you ever need information being spread through the community, it would be a really good vehicle to do that. Excuse the pun, see what I mean?
How long
It's all right.
is this strategy covered? Like, I mean, is there going to be a chance to revisit it
Yeah.
in a couple of
So
years?
maybe I
or
could
something?
go there and ask her all those questions and say, hey, we'd be really interested in supporting your processes and offer it out that way. All right, I can do that. It's
It's
Emma.
quite a long
Because, I mean,
time.
it's something that
Link in
there's
with
a lot of
Jamie as well.
there's development happening, things that needs to happen at some point.
Yeah.
And a lot of people along that road.
Yes,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Be reduced,
Absolutely.
but it's just, this
Yeah.
is like the only chance we're going to have for the next 10 years. Then,
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
it
yeah.
might be good to just.
Well, I can definitely have a conversation with him. Chris.
What's the formal process where the community board is notified? Or notices itself.
Yeah. How do
Processes
we
around
get this
NZTA.
Yeah.
And whether that comes through if council, in Jamie's department, whether something comes through from the board, or we make sure that NZTA, we're on their list of this is going on and it relates to Mohua. Like that's the tidy up, I think.
So I
I
have a
think you're right.
conversation with Jamie and then with Emma and see if we can form stronger communication lines.
And we do have the regional transport committee. and
Yeah.
I'm a member of that committee.
Yes.
So that's, I think it came up there, but I sort of missed it because it didn't get talked about at all.
Yeah.
So it's just been one of these funny, messy little things, that's an anomaly.
Good to identify the gap. And
But
good that we
normally
did.
I should be able to feedback,
Yeah.
but also I do think that we should try and get
Yep,
a direct
absolutely.
relationship with them.
Yeah. Why not?
Yeah. Not
Right,
easy,
I'm going to
but
make friends with Emma.
Yeah.
She sounds nice.
Yeah.
Excellent. So that's
So
great.
what did we end up saying in
The
this?
30K, so exact wording that Celia gave us.
Plus the little bit about what Kim said.
Do we add that into the submission?
Well, there's potential to make that statement about, being concerned that you're informed of this late in the piece, which is not necessarily as a message to Wapatahi, it could actually be as much more serious to the council. And then the fact that also surprised or somewhat surprised that other matters that have been material to transport issues in Goulburn were not canvassed in the proposal, giving them a little bit of a look back and rather than live with a 10-year strategy and not be able to knock up the door with it.
Yeah. I'm comfortable leaving that part out and just going for the positive, reaching out to Emma and Jamie, but I'm open to sending Emma
I was just thinking, because we had that presentation last meeting from Jamie
from Jamie,
about that strategy. So it's just, and at the time I was asking about the partnership with Wapatahi, and they were on a different time frame. So I'm just, I don't know, just slightly baffled by the fact that come to our attention so late.
So like, yeah, so I'll have a conversation
Yeah.
or jamming with them and go from there, feed back. Great. So this is what we want to be carried. Lovely. I don't know what I'm just doing.
So how do we get that in case that
We
actually goes?
We asked Jess very nicely and we hurried through the rest of the agenda to give her 10 minutes at the end of her day to get it in.
It's very straightforward.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just giving her the time to do that. We've got to make sure that happens, Jess.
Yeah. I'm just. Let me just, I'm working at one screen.
Yep.
And I'm just refining those bits so that
You can just cut and paste.
very clear.
Yeah.
Modern history, right, sections. What is targeted polymer, what main, which is what that's officially called. That section of it, where it's that relatively.
Great.
It's also called commercial street.
It is commercial street, sorry.
Yeah.
Does it, what I was just interested in the wording for the ADK area, it said protect the community. Would that apply to the 50 to 30 as well? I was wondering about the definition.
Right, so yes, you could put protect the community, but the specific reason for reducing it to 30 under the strategy, active transport strategy.
Safely walking and
Off-site. Okay, yeah.
Excellent. Okay. Great.
So, sorry, Abby, can I just ask, yes, so with the 80k target, we haven't actually had a debate about that.
No.
We in this meeting.
No.
As to whether or not we would include that. So I'm just interested as to what the actual community board thinks about that. I know that your feeling is that we need to go out to the community to ask about that, and you're probably right, but I just think we just need to decide that that's the real one.
Okay.
Question, and that is, does this not fit under the same
No.
strategy?
No, it doesn't.
Doesn't. Not consulted on.
An urban sort of.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, no, it doesn't.
What about the walking and cycling strategy, the voting what about their strategy?
No.
No, I mean, the other issue about targeted at Collingwood is that the road is not, but it's not safe for parts of the road.
Parts of the road,
but
yeah.
And Chris Bennett actually suggested just asking for Milnthorpe. Just for Milnthorpe to be reduced to 80.
Sure.
Just key parts of it, but it possibly, I think maybe it comes into play here that we can't actually speak for the community about this particular one.
And without staff input as well.
Yes, that's
right. So we're airing down a path that, we used to go down 6 years ago, and I'm very keen not to be down there again.
Done well so far.
We've done good. So, but I mean, if anyone's got any other compelling arguments as to why it should be included, I'm open to this.
We need to be able to make a case for it. These areas of roads have been reduced because of this. Here's the data that shows the road to zero.
Yes. Yeah. And I mean, I've often heard that road was never designed to be 100k road. It was always meant to be 80, and I'm not sure how it meant to be 100. But again, So yeah, I mean, everyone's happy to move on.
Can we just, sorry, I've just been fiddling with this while you've been discussing. Can we just read through that one if we're happy? And then I can probably post that in a minute.
Yep. So we reduce the speed on Commercial Street, State Highway 60 through the Takaka Township from 50 kilometres an hour to 30 kilometres an hour between the Mortipipi and Riley Street intersections. This will provide for safer cycling.
So then Riley Street is just
just down there.
Why not to be past the high school?
Haldane Road.
Yes,
Because if we're going to be consistent with the strategy actually puts a cycle lanes from the end of the commercial area down to the high school. So the structure of the strategy for Golden Bay, which this community board consulted on for us to, we had a presentation and we put the submission, and it's all been sort of gone through council and us too. And the so the strategy itself is that just commercial areas, CK, and then from Riley Street down to the high school, it's supposed to be 5 lanes. That's yeah.
So then that's already been.
That's already been.
Okay.
Yeah, it's already been done.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
That's council's plan.
And it's been adopted by council.
Right, okay, yeah, so it's.
For the future.
Yeah. 30K. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ag, I think in terms of the high school, that intersection there, I think the longer term or some point, the idea that we formally reduction speed. Oh, that's coming in.
That's happening under this strategy that we're submitting to. Yeah.
Well,
They have 30 around there anyway.
So it's happening anyway.
Yes, it is.
Yeah.
Yes, I just wonder whether it's
Under this
where we
plan.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wondering about on the ground and where they're going to put them, because when we were there on the corner with that site visit, we were imagining it happening, you know, Meihana, he cut it down up there some point, down there and down there, and I hope that what's proposed is what we.
Yeah, I hope so. This is state highway only.
So it won't cover the other aspects.
Well, we will cover that in our TDC speed management. But that would be good. We'll cover that. But this speed management that we talk about now is only state highways.
So they'll just do something somewhere at Commercial Street down there and then round the school shop there.
So 30K, 50K, 30K.
Yeah, you got to.
That's right.
Speed up, so
All right, at the time the school when the school
Welcome to this
gets
world.
Yeah.
All right, excellent.
Welcome.
Oh.
What I put up there is actually the submission page, so we can do that right.
Oh,
You're happy
let's
with
do
that?
right now. Yes.
Statement.
Do it.
Submit it.
Done. Lovely. Thanks, Jess. Superstar.
Yes.
Yes. Well, updates. Look at how efficient we are.
Right.
Okay, great. Thanks, Jess.
Thank you.
So that pulls us to our chair's report. So, so the first part on our chair's report, and a late item will feed into this too, our board member feedback. So just throw something in there if I don't add it in again. And apologies, so normally I would send an email around a couple of weeks before it's due in saying, hey guys, anything for the chair report? Flick through, and I was slack this time, so my apologies. Okay, lucky there are late items. So, items from November public forums we'll discuss first. I'll tell you what else we've discussed. Public forum items from today. We'll get the wording right. So we had Noel with his prickles and wanting support from the exemption to the rules of my websites. So what we'll do is I will go to staff. I'll say, hey, prickles, what are we doing? That'll go into the February plan and we'll go from there. Does it sound good?
Is it?
No? Well,
Well, I'm guessing that there have been service requests have gone in formally. Has that happened?
So I don't know the staff. Yeah.
I can confirm that the customer services team here have processed a number. I couldn't give you an exact number, but definitely a couple of service requests regarding Onehunga Weed in that part.
So you're talking, Chair, you're talking about this going around the loop with our process and feed report, but
I'll just get some feedback from staff for our February report so we can discuss the way 2 steps without having a discussion about things that we don't really know what's happening with.
Yes.
Yes.
It seems a little long-winded, doesn't it, as many of our processes are, but really there's an obvious issue if it's a staff
if it's a policy around no sprays in town, oh, well, too bad about the people's over there, like this just seems silly, doesn't it? So I just wonder what the correct intervention is, or to be able to have that conversation with staff around the policy and look, someone to say, look, what's the quick fix here?
Yes, and that's what I'm hoping for with my check. Yeah.
Like sometimes, you know, to wait to feed the super.
Oh no, sorry, waiting for feedback to the board. It'll go in the check. It's just
it just seems a long way round, but I just
You can't do anything about it. Spring.
Yeah.
So the timing is such that it's not there. He's opening up that consultants before the next cycle starts.
Yeah. Celia.
I'd like to propose that we ask for something that was comprehensive and that they actually redo the lawn there, because I noticed that the Village Green doesn't have this problem, does it? I don't think it does or not, but it just seems to be really.
I noticed it too as I walked across from Riley Street by the green space by the museum. There had quite a bit of it too.
Right.
So maybe
it just seems that the lawn is really poor quality at the memorial, and I'm just wondering if they could, if we could ask for it to be actually rebuilt. You know how they do with the sports grounds. Like, you know, because it's very difficult to get rid of that.
Yeah, I think I'll have the conversation with Linda, whoever she.
They'll need to assess it and get the staff.
And I will email it and all the information out, and I'll loop you into it.
I don't know who said policy. It says no. So I think that is best, because I don't know where they come from.
I'll find out.
It's just come from saying that there's no herbicides.
I'll find out the rationale. There'll be a rationale. Yeah, that's right.
They spray down the beach.
Spray all down the roadsides and run into streams.
I imagine it's because it's public and there's lots of people around. I imagine that's the case. I mean, you know, you can say that about the beaches, but you know, this is township, and I think that's probably the reasoning. Plus, you know, spray drift and built up urban area, etc. That's my guess.
Oh, we'll have a check to understand.
Yeah, it'd be good to get that information.
Yeah. Okay, so that moves us to November public forum items. So, Beach requested the mobility parking, and I'm just waiting to hear back from Jamie around those. And requested that we reinstate the community board meeting in Collingwood. Zatori was suggested as an option. People would be comfortable with me checking if Zatori would host us every third month.
Yeah, I could get a quote.
Yes.
Sort of a different scene than the fire. And you support local businesses, that's a nice thing, isn't it?
We should concentrate with a view like that.
That would be great. Bike stands at beaches. So I would like to for the board to request staff investigate the options of having these stands placed at reserves and the costs of these. Yeah.
And those three, Ohana, Lagavai and Tata.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I will talk to not Drew because Drew's not there anymore. So yeah, I'll talk to somebody. Who's the new Drew?
The new person in charge of reserves.
No, Drew was the active transport man. He would have liked our bike stand idea. I was hoping to get buy-in and then go to Lynn. Okay.
And would we be thinking at Pohara, like would we be sort of wanting to identify Selwyn Street? You know.
I was thinking, sorry, when I think Pohara, I think Selwyn Street car park, but you're right. There might be two spots.
Well, just thinking that we just say Pohara would be like in a shop or down by the wall.
Yeah, I was thinking Selwyn Street car park, but we would be.
I think both. We leave an option.
So Selwyn Street and
down the other end by
by the
store there.
reserve story, but
It's
yeah,
a little, you know, sort of picnic area.
yeah,
Like different ice cream, whatever.
yeah, perfect. Awesome. So the Boyle Street culvert set was addressed at the current meeting. Duncan was meeting with David regarding the gravel extraction from Tākiko River. Now, the Mōhua of affordable housing. So Chris has sent us a letter, which hopefully everyone's had a chance to read. He's seeking board support in the form of a letter supporting his proposal. So it would just be a letter to council. Where is it? So I know that Jane emailed him back and said yes, she would send through police. She'd send through land information, and he just wanted a letter of support from us, didn't he, Jess? So anyway, yeah, he wants us to support his.
He's speaking about a suitable leasehold arrangement. So I think what we like is for the trust not to be in a position of managing these things. And is council willing to take that on?
Yeah.
Almost, I guess, the way that we manage the other older people essential property thingy. So he's asking that are TDC willing to partner with them for the management of the dwellings, but like commercial street flats.
Yes.
And trust would be responsible for managing the property itself. And unlike commercial street, the ownership will not revert to TDC. So I guess if we're going to write a letter of support, that it might be good if we include comment on those specific things that we would support that and some of these other ideas he's put forward.
But I guess we need to confirm that those options for TDC to support them as well about managing the property. I'm just saying, I don't know. The answer is well, no.
Yeah.
Yeah, we can't say that. We can't say whether we would. It's up to us to say that.
But we can give an opinion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If there's a way for council to be involved in a partnership with the trust in terms
Yeah,
of the
that's what he
management
wanted
of
us. He
property.
just wanted from us support for that. For,
That's part of that.
Just a comment is that they're not, the Mōhua Housing Trust is not a registered provider with Kāinga Ora. And the reason being is that Kāinga Ora won't register as a provider because Golden Bay or Tākiko is too small. And council say that the response from council was that they'll only include those people, providers like Protect Humanity, who are already registered as social housing providers. So, you know, I'd like to propose that in the course of us writing this, that we actually ask council to work with Housing Mōhua on the basis that that they can't get registered as a social housing provider.
yeah. Nice. Yeah, I'm just writing it down. Sorry, Celia.
I mean, he's met with them, and they just, that was my understanding. I mean, maybe I need to, shall I clarify that for others?
I've got a tiny bit of background information because he's applied to the Affordable Housing Fund, which is a separate fund from the social housing, which is social housing is for like under the whole old Housing New Zealand model, but the affordable housing is trying to get affordable houses for the community, so it's a step up from the social housing, as I understand it, because I had a little bit of involvement
Yeah.
That's something.
So I'm happy as the board to write,
Yeah.
sorry, to write that letter and add in Sevia's bits about not being
Okay.
social housing.
But Robert, am I right? What I'm saying?
Yeah, I believe you are, because I've been involved with the housing trust. Not
Yeah.
this one, the government housing trust. And yeah, I don't think we can register as a social housing, but you can find the funding supposedly to do it, but very mixed messages.
Yeah, and so the point that I think the point is that council have some kind of policy about not
Oh, I
working
see.
with housing providers unless they are got some kind of status of registered or something.
But we've done that already. Council have already worked with the trust.
Well,
I guess-
to a point, they have with the commercial street.
Yeah.
But I don't think they'll go into partnership with them, and that's what we need to raise again. I'd just like to just keep that on the table. It's just a bit messy.
I did see the email back to Chris from Jane.
Right.
So did you want to see that?
Yeah,
So,
can you read that? Sorry, and that's
I
what I was
don't
struggling
know.
to remember what she said she would do.
So his request for her was, would TDC consider the council's list of people looking to be tenants?
Thank you, yes.
And make those allocations, and I thought that Jane.
I thought she said yes.
She
Yeah.
said she would be happy to make the waiting list available and help her undertaking tenant selection.
There you go.
So,
Thank you, that's all right.
and completing the tenancy agreement. So,
Well, that's all he's asking for. So
So we'll
yes,
just do a
that's what-
supportive
yeah,
letter
yeah,
to offer.
that's right.
Yeah.
And there might be
Okay, it's not.
My
Sounds
understanding was he
lovely.
was asking for slightly more than what Jane came back with. So maybe that's a starting place.
Yes.
And I think what they will want is actually council to manage those tenancy.
Which we can't make
contracts
the
and-
decision, but we.
No, but we can write and say, well, we think that's a jolly good
We
idea.
like the idea.
Yeah.
We support the project. We
Yeah.
could even have stronger language and support the project. couldn't we?
Strongly
This is a-
endorse.
This is a little bit of infrastructure for the bay and I appreciate the trust's ongoing.
So they manage the thing. Right, good. Geez, you kept your list and I come in and write with you.
Chris actually said that leaving it for Jane to move forwards internally to get the necessary formal by
Yeah.
anything.
So we'll encourage that from our side as well. So there was the stormwater and flooding and so I'm hoping that the board will request, support my request that staff provide regular updates regarding mitigation of stormwater issues in this area. So there will be a conversation with Mike, my friend Mike. Yes, my good friend Mike. Updates re stormwater. Stormwater from staff. Cool.
Would we add to our letter in support of the project that we're pretty keen to, to see the stormwater issues resolved? Yes. And for council to be progressing that as soon as they're able to. That's a critical step or something to be resolved for this project to go ahead and see that wholly.
Yeah, absolutely, because to rectify that issue, it allows the yeah.
And beyond this project.
That's right.
Abby, can I just clarify with something like the with gravel removal? Would we continue to get updates?
Yeah, we can
Every now and
certainly
again,
request
just-
them. Yeah,
yeah,
from David.
Because I think it's something
Yeah.
that's important to the community, and rather than just once off, would be good to just get some update if there's a movement in the area.
Yeah, sure.
So
Yeah,
that we're
it's a really good
informed.
point.
It closes the loop, doesn't it? So
Yes.
David meets with Duncan and then what?
And then we hear,
Yeah,
then we need
exactly.
the feedback.
Yeah.
That's right, and very good point. Yeah, I'll have a chat to my other friend David. Okay. So that brings us to the board communication plan. Which you broke. Yeah.
So,
so what we were looking at, broad strokes, is that we want different ways of getting information out to our community.
So one thing, so I noticed you've got in there about social media, using social media.
We were told our social media was lacking.
that's what
Was probably the polite word that she would use. And then she talked about things. So did you ever get a chance to connect with Jess around that?
No,
yet?
she
Okay.
never came back to us. That was more about council's social
Yeah,
media.
that was more about the way we engage with you. So
Yeah.
that's slightly
I think
separate.
that's different.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're just for us. Oh,
And we're looking into it, so for next year, on that issue, we're gonna
Great.
be, council minister next year. So that will assist with that side. But no, everything will be interesting.
all right. She's got things that are taking up her time at the moment. So perhaps
I assume that they'll be changing members anyway going into next year.
but just great to believe that there's
Yeah.
something they want to be involved in. So.
Yeah.
Cool.
And then what? Oh, where you go to the festival.
Yes.
Yes. So regarding Facebook specifically, we thought that would be a great channel for you guys to use. So we're open to also putting on our Facebook page, so what's coming up to your agenda before your community meetings. But with that, we're pushing that so much stuff that it reach. Things get drowned out amongst everything else. And I think ideally, what we be a good solution is the community boards on social media. So setting up a Golden Bay community board and
Suck it up, maybe.
We're good. Yeah, right.
We're turning off the comments off. Yeah. Turning off the comments is probably.
Yeah, but just absolutely. If we had talked about Facebook before, and all of us sort of
that's probably the right channel.
Yeah.
If you're looking talking social media, I think that's probably the one that you're gonna get the right people in it. It's the right medium for what you're gonna want to put out there as well, like TikTok, you're not going to funny videos.
We are not.
Instagram, it's not visual content either. It's probably Facebook is the channel.
It's the information that you got.
Okay, so that would be a good channel for us.
And
Yes.
well, there's the number of Golden Bay community Facebook groups. It might be, if there was a community board, if we had our own page, we could post things to those.
Yeah.
Would sort of give us that access point to get, like, I think those have a much wider reach than we'd ever get.
Yes, I think that helps you build your reach as
Yeah.
well. So that's what I would suggest is joining all of these groups. There's a bunch of different, like you got Golden Bay attack.
So many groups, like so many,
But if you're posting on your page and then you posting to all these groups from you as well, and it'll bring people back to you.
Okay.
So put that on.
Who would manage the content? Look at me.
I think it would be best.
So it would be all of us would have access to it. Would all be like admins or whatever.
Yep. So I mean,
I think we've got to be careful about this.
Yeah, I'm
actually.
wondering
I
if we
think we
need
need-
a structured.
I think we need it. So this is something I'm pleased about. So I've been for the last 3 years, I've been feeling like we're sort of absent as a board president.
Yeah.
So in terms of, especially when there are storm events happening or other things happening, when I've been passing on information, so that's really helpful. And I've always felt like it was a board role to do it.
Yeah.
I'm happy to do it, but it's been something that's been missing. But I'm not so sure about us having a page, so we'll just chip in on. Because I think we need a standard, we need someone that's managing it, and that we are more likely to say, look, I'm aware of this.
And we're not double posting or
So ideally, you'd have one person looking after the chair, because it's putting a lot on.
Well, that's the
Oh,
role.
I liked you before. Real fast.
If there's someone else that you want to assign that role, I mean, even in our team
someone else.
that we have, I mean, people will become think have access, but I generally look after this media. It runs easier with one person managing it.
Yeah. I'd be really careful about linking up with all of the community paper.
Yeah.
So on the sort of there's the community notice board, which gets relatively well moderated. But there's another one where there's lots of F's and C's on there, and just sort of really, you know, feral commentary, racist commentary, misogyny, all sorts of stuff. And I wouldn't want us identifying with that or hooking in with it. So there's some process, I think, where we identify where we would, but you know, 400 Boat Club, all those sorts of community.
Rec Centre,
you know,
TV Weekly.
Yep.
Do we need to have a workshop on this?
That's what I'm just wondering, if we, instead of discussing this at a meeting and taking up time, we actually sit down and workshop it.
Yeah. Just actually go through it.
How does that feel for you guys? Was that with it and work through a process and come up with some guides and
Yeah, I think, you know, what sort of things are we going to post? So for me, I felt there's been an absence around being able to post something that says community board meeting next week or 2 weeks time.
Here's our agenda.
You know,
We've got these guys coming
a
over.
link to the agenda, presentations by, post saying we've got a bylaw hearing process on, here's a link to the paper, you know, those sorts of things. And so informative, that relate to the board. And then if we do have some sort of crisis or emergency, you know, that the board's posting out accurate information about that that's coming from our comms or from civil defence.
Remind us about service requests, etc.
Yeah.
You know, that we, you know, why you got to come to the board and just do a service request, that sort of thing.
Yes. I do like it.
Yeah.
I'm not particularly good on Facebook, but we can workshop it.
We're here to assist you. Like you could call, email, when you're doing it. Always here to help, especially get you started. We can set you up, get you running.
Awesome. So let's aim for a workshop in even January, later January.
Because I know Motueka thought about it, because David wanted to do one a couple of years ago. He was very keen, and I think there was kind of decided not to do it at the time. I think it's a good idea now. Why the difference?
I wasn't around then, not sure what the decision was then, but I think things have changed a lot, social media wise now. Everyone who's not as well, especially business wise, organisation wise.
I think it was just around the
safety.
I think it was just around some of the comments.
That's the thing to manage. So when people write in and say, "Oh, F off, you useless idiots," who voted for you? You know, so we need that moderated, or we need to be able to turn comments off. If we're simply advising people about something,
I don't think we need comments particularly.
Well, people might want to ask a question about something.
So we're quite cautious with that, what we do. We don't want to turn comments off on everything. We do get that, but so we have a social media engagement that we set up, and ideally you guys will follow that as well. And so we get something that we can process a line. They get warned. This can be hidden. If you do this again, it's breach of engagement, you will be banned. And if they do it again, they're gone. So that's pretty much our process. Gives them a chance. Sometimes some people don't realise what they're posted to do. Just other times it'll stop with them. So there's quite a few warnings I've given that haven't needed to follow through with a banning. It's got so it can make people more aware of what they're posting.
So I think a workshop and a sit down and a work out exactly.
I think.
The way.
When I think about it, for me, I was just comments off, because what you're trying to do is, because often I see people make comments on the TDC page, especially if it goes to council. But it's not a formal means of communication. So it's directing them to the email address of some form, rather than comments on Facebook, which don't achieve much.
But I mean, we pass on things to the right department, like as if people are calling in.
You monitor those things, don't you?
Definitely. It's if you're turning off the thing with social media, is that's what it was designed for, is for the engagement, for the two-way interaction between the public and you. So if you turn off comments, you kind of just like it doesn't. You're stopping that.
Just have to make sure that, to make sure that, like you're saying, any response or any conversation on a Facebook would have to sort of have a pre-approved sort of response, like we'd have to have a approach that we've all agreed on.
Yeah.
We wouldn't have to.
Yeah, which is
sign
why
up
the
everything, but
guidelines
we
and
have
policy
to have
would
a
be
sort of
very handy.
a line that we're all happy for the
Yeah.
commentary sort of take that forward. Which we could do at the workshops.
Chris.
Guidelines.
Yeah, because if you go and post on the community notice board page, it doesn't just go on immediately, does it? I put it set with the
Some of them have
moderators,
it'll sit until it's approved.
and then they'll approve it. But I'm just interested in how come TDC wouldn't just do this through the council's Facebook page, given that what we're mostly thinking about is a post that says Golden Bay Community Board meeting date, agenda now available, link to that will be a presentation by Jean and Neil. Why wouldn't that just come
We're
in?
happy to do that as well. I've mentioned we can do that.
My question is why we'd have a separate Facebook page.
And it's giving you a voice in the community and establishing, I guess, that voice it's giving you that, which I think you did before, you thought was lacking a bit as well.
Yeah.
It's giving the community, some people don't want to come to council with things, but I think they'll come to a community board. It might be more receptive to things coming from you guys posting, even from the notice board page. I think then.
Here's what would go on the Golden Bay Community Board page would be more tailored and targeted towards Golden Bay, and people go, if I'm going to look at this, everything here will relate to Golden Bay Community.
Follow council and see everything.
And I know you get the dozens.
No.
Posts around.
So let's, and I'm certainly not attached to being the person in charge, so if anyone else, but we can workshop it. If someone else has got better social media skills, then great, but we can workshop all through all that in January.
Late January?
Yeah. Try and get a date that suits everybody and we'll go from there. I will email around.
And we better get, maybe if we could get ahead of time, terms of engagement the council
Yeah.
had, and we can
That's up on our website at the moment.
That would be great. Thanks, Sarah. Appreciate that. Oh, fun.
Is that the only way? Is that the only the best way? I mean, look, I'm happy to have a slot on my radio show as an example on a Friday. There is also currently one breakfast show on a Monday morning, which is unallocated, and I think Monday and Tuesday are both unallocated. Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday are allocated. So it's 2 breakfast slots on Fresh FM, which and I wonder if that's something, an option to look at. Of us doing a show. I don't know if we'll still do one, do we?
How long was slot you mean? You mean like a whole breakfast show?
2 hour. Yeah.
Oh, that might be pushing it.
Well, or do we do another?
Yeah,
do we do a show
time.
that's more? I mean, it's a good time to do it. Breakfast, of course.
Yeah. The other option too is the GB Weekly, which is a major publication of the Golden Bay, and everybody reads it.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that was a point on the that's sort of why I've come in.
Yes.
So yeah, as you'll probably be aware, there's also this week. Yeah. So we have withdrawn our full page quarterly update across all the community papers. So that's it's not just Golden Bay Weekly. It's the one so Waimea Weekly.
Yeah, that's
pretty, yeah. So in terms of what the podcast.
So that would run on the opposite weeks to what news would come out.
Yes. Is that a cost measure?
It's purely a cost
measure. Joe's listening.
Yeah.
Joe's been affected by this.
Yeah. So I don't need to do a store poll. I'm not sure sort of appreciate the value of the GB Weekly throughout my home. And so do we. It's just it was a significant cost. And the information provided is largely stuff that is also found. Yeah, it's pretty much Newsline 0.5. Yeah. So I think there is.
I
yeah, there's an opportunity to maybe tailor things a little bit more. It's like, yes, we've taken the funding for that. But also, it also means that we do need to do a lot of advertising. We need to do that, keep people informed.
Maybe
Some-
we have a
some
column.
way. Well, there you go. Yeah.
So if GB Weekly have that have made the decision that they may not be able to report on our meetings anymore, yeah, that's from what I understand. Yeah.
Joe expressed that.
Yeah. So if we,
May not have
Yeah.
been.
if we have that situation, then maybe we do need one of those, like the police report.
Yep.
You know, in the weekly.
Well, Celia and I do our council matters
Yeah.
column, which is it's a great new title, isn't it?
Yep.
And I did speak with Joe about, you know, perhaps there's a alternate one where a community board member writes a column.
We just need to make sure of the timing to make sure if that did work out and it was your turn, you edit in the agenda stuff. Or we could do that separately in an ad.
Yeah, it just depends on when they fall.
Yeah, when they
so that's not quite established yet. Joe was going to get back to me about that because we were going something like a month then anyway. So but that's another thing the board could do is actually have one of those columns. You know, so so that then your voice and your thinking is available.
What's going also, we're not pulling out funding full stop. What we will be putting back in is LTP next year. So many things coming down the pipe. We need to tell people about this. So we will be investing in the GB Week. It's
Just in a way.
just a different way.
More consultation.
Yeah, I think a community board column would be awesome. And I guess that might be a conversation that we might be having with Joe just to see how it can work. And whether there's a cost involved.
Okay.
I know the community board does have some budget. I'm not forgetting, but would there be?
Well, I would be happy to have a conversation with
Yeah.
Joe about different options and costs and things like that. Come back and run it past you two, and then put it in February.
You certainly want to keep things going. It's,
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, special projects fund.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah. And,
Right.
oh my gosh.
Right.
Yeah, there's like several things I think have been discussed during the meeting and before the meeting that could benefit from some additional motion.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you.
I'd just like to say that, Joe, thank you for your coverage, amazing coverage of, you know, GB Weekly meetings up till now. You've been here, sitting here and done it, you know, covered the whole meeting. It's been a great benefit to you. So thank you very much. And it's with regret that you are saying you're not going to be able to do it. That we would be there.
So, and we'll see if we can work out a way where we can continue this. Yeah, great coverage. Great.
And this is Neil Wilson covered the community board meetings here for years and years and years, and so it's quite a. So we do have to think about what we're going to submit into the community. And while you know Joe's pieces were a reflection on what had happened, I think there's other things we need to communicate.
Yeah.
And that would be the point of the Facebook page and say, actually, I think we could post on there to say, here are the decisions made at this meeting.
Or a link to them, link to them.
Jerry Kingston back in the day, community news, that was also, so it goes, we go back 30 years.
Is that 1981 or something?
Yeah.
Right. Okay, we'll come up with a good workshop and comms plan, and I'll catch up with Joe, hopefully, Joe, before, well, definitely before January, so I can feed into that communication workshop as well. Come up with a really good plan.
I just wanted to say, yeah, they had really good coverage of the meeting that had gone, but it'd be really good to have that forward focus.
Forward, yeah, and that was my
That
thinking.
information as well, because it's good that they're here, but then forward focus, update.
Yeah, absolutely.
What we're looking at in the
This is what
future,
we're, yeah.
what's at the next meeting.
And that was the thinking.
Sure. And there's a presentation on something, it'll be about here, here's the Zoom link if you want to.
Perfect.
Provide people public forum, have the same.
Great. So we'll come up with the date. Have a marketing thing.
We're noticing, yeah.
Yes.
I was just thinking about, if there's signs are getting damaged, or we notice we've had quite a few complaints about dogs in areas that are prohibited. So reminding people about things.
That's a good point, because we don't get service requests. We don't see the service requests that come through to Golden Bay, do that from Golden Bay, do we? They just go off into the staff. And maybe that's something we need to feed back to public too, because yeah.
Service request info, yeah. Lots of interesting stuff that people like to know.
Quite a lot of people don't seem to know about the fund that people can apply to here. So some people just don't need to know about that. So post on that.
Yeah.
Okay. Lots of stuff. Perfect. Excellent. Okay. We're a good plan moving forward. So actually the discretionary fund workshop. So I'd really like to review this fund and how the board allocates funding. Jess, I think you added in somewhere how much money we actually don't have left. We don't have a huge amount left. Where's my?
Yeah, in the financial report.
Yes.
We've got.
So $3,439. So there's not a huge amount of money when people can ask for $1,000 at a time.
Yes.
$3,439. So it's not a huge amount. So what I would like to see though.
Until we.
Next financial year.
Next financial
June. 30th of June is the end of
June, yeah, so July next year.
Sorry.
No, go please.
You read the financial report, it actually shows we get significantly less than that a year, but this year we carried over a balance.
Yes.
So we have had more money to distribute this year.
Because Carolyn didn't spend it when we ripped through it.
But we do not get a lot of money allocated to the discretionary fund.
How much do we get?
3,905.
Yeah.
There you go. So that's just under 4. If people are applying for $1,000, it's just under 4.
Yes.
So what I'd really like to do is have a chat to staff and we'll review that process. We review the criteria in the application process, and we have a look at that if everyone would be happy with that. Yes. That'll probably be February. Great. Okay. So the Mohua 2042. So the board has previously received this report and presentation given its support in principle. Deputy Chair Knowles would like the board to consider a strong support in the form of adopting the strategy as a board document. I suggest the board seek staff advice on whether it would be appropriate for us to formally adopt a strategy as opposed to the existing standards of the document where it's recognised as a valuable resource.
Just change that. It was actually Debbie Pearson that came to us.
For stronger support?
Yeah.
Ah, right. Okay. Oh, okay. Cool. Robert.
Do you have a little bit of background of how this report fits in with TDC? Is it completely separate? Or
Have you read it?
Yes, I have read it.
It is. It's a separate.
Completely separate. Nothing to do with TDC at all. But of course it encompasses everything.
Oh, sorry.
It's all right.
Around.
Yeah, I'd just like to say that I did, when Debbie Pearson presented this to the committee, I did ask her if there was going to be support. I felt that it was a very, actually, just a given document. And for me, I can't support.
couldn't support it until I see something that's, we've got a lot of meat. So that was my question to her at the time. And I didn't really get an answer to it, or what the answer I got was that it's considered to be finished.
No, can I just say, it's not finished, it's a living document, so it's updating all the time. It's printed out, but only 30 copies just for that reason, 50 copies just for that reason, or part of that reason. It is updated. There is a trust being formed with I think 6 members on it, 7 members on it, and that's more about the actions and about supporting the actions that come from the strategy. Strategy is just a broad strategy, and I think Debbie and myself and Kim got together and had a good talk. And it was kind of a similar to what you say, to Susie.
I mean, what reports do we adopt? None. That's my main. It's not sort of a process that we.
That's why we need staff advice.
Yes, because at council we adopt things, don't we? But they're pretty formal processes. Yeah, a whole lot of ground here, fucking tree, and you know, like really robust evidential staff process to adopt something. So I think it's not the right language and right process for the board.
That was we need to seek staff advice.
Yeah.
On whether that was the correct.
That's about, I mean, Debbie made the pitch to us, and we had a follow-up conversation, as you say, afterwards, just to get a little bit of a sense of what stands behind it, what parts of the community have been goaled into it, where their aspirations went through reaching further parts of the community.
Yeah.
So in the chair's report that followed was, essentially the highest level of support that could be mustered, given the features of the strategy. There's a couple of challenges in there as to who were actually authors and who was sort of packaged up as an author. So there were a few things that needed to be corrected for it to go any further. So those things, so now it's almost like I think you went as far as you could with what you were presenting. If more work has been done, then it's a case of saying, resubmitting it in a sense. To say, look, listen to, we've now done this. Would the community board be able to provide stronger support, which is sort of like where you're at now? So it almost needs a bit of a follow-up to say, well, we heard you, we've now done this. This is where the document sits. Could you now, and that would then be a matter of referring to staff to say, what advice is the board able to receive from the council?
Yeah.
That would give you confidence that you could, add another layer of endorsement to whatever form. Whether it was adopt, I think, probably a long way down the track adopting. But
it's largely a strategic document, and I think we've got to understand what it would mean to say we give it some stronger level of endorsement other than receiving it or acknowledging it or something. So what would that mean? Are we then saying we're going to be guided by it? Does it mean? I think it's a complex thing, and I think we have to be careful given the points that have already made around it doesn't incorporate the whole of our community. When I read through a lot of it, I can see who's sitting on the veranda drinking a chai latte, watching the chickens run around the front lawn. There's a whole lot of people who I think aren't represented. So I think we need to be careful about it, and it might be that one of our endorsements is that there's a continued community board involvement as it gets developed. I'm cautious, supportive of it, and cautious. Right tree, right place.
So do we seek staff advice, or do we go back to Debbie and say these are the things we'd like to see, or we ask staff for reports?
I think staff will come back and say this is the usual process around
Yeah.
It's probably a bit unusual for a council to adopt someone else's report.
Yeah. So it would come back in the form of the pros and the cons and the like
Yeah.
an all report.
Options.
Yep.
Language.
Well, I think, adopting a report would make that so interesting. So follow that's something we would do.
And
So-
it would only be for our 3 years. I wouldn't like to commit to future boards.
It's not someone that is for that say followed. So that can underpin our thoughts and contribute to the way that we debate things, but that's not actually something in its current form that could be followed. When you think about what the other things we adopt strategies, they will be worked out.
So they've got
timelines
yeah.
and they've got actions and all that stuff.
So we don't tend to adopt someone else's strategy. It's not community board strategy.
No.
Which is what we would have in the guidance.
So as the board then, are we saying before we go to staff and ask them for this work around this project, we'd like to go back to Proverb 2042 and say we'd like more of a document that gives direction, or we'd like to see, or do you want to go to staff first?
So we go to start first, actually.
Okay.
I would too. So
Yes.
what's the deal here?
Okay.
Yeah.
It'll be the headline of the email. What's the deal? Boards adopting.
Because I would just wonder, how responsive. Because if we were going to take it on in any way, we would expect that we'd have a dialogue with the strategy. And to this point, I don't think that the strategy has been receptive to a dialogue. Because I did raise the issue of why are you covering so many topics, including medical, health in the Bay, which is total contradictions between whether people are vaccinated. Why are you doing that? Would you consider actually restricting to have just a fewer number of topics and policy? The response was no, this is what we're doing. So I feel that I would, that we need, if we do have any kind of engagement with them, it needs to be, then we would want to be dialogue.
Ask you to come back at some point.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'll have a check staff to see what their thoughts on adopting.
Yeah.
And what they think the strategy too. So we'll get their feedback on the strategy and what they think the strategy as well.
It's not the same strategy, but it kind of brings me back to that Arts Council, the art strategy and the strategy, similar sort of thing. In that sense.
Yes, you're right.
Concept, yeah.
Right, well, I'll do that. We'll hopefully February. That will start like me up to hope to actually come visit tomorrow.
Maybe when we raise it, I mean, we're talking about adopting, but we know what our options are.
Yes, that's what the report will provide.
Yeah,
So we'll provide.
Thank you.
Absolutely. That's a very good point. So the Amelia tree on the green, and I know we had a conversation about this on Monday, but I'm very sorry to report. I had a conversation with Richard Hollier on Friday, and the tree will be going this week. Unfortunately, he sent two of his guys over to meet the arborist, and there's now another split. And the first split has also grown faster than they thought it should. And normally removal of trees does come to community board unless there is a health and safety risk, which this tree has been deemed, so the decision is out of hands. I've spoken to the Village Green Committee, who are sad, but again, they're putting the health and safety people first. So the tree will be removed, and when I talk to Richard Hollier, we'll replace it with a mature tree. So it'll be a half grown, hopefully grown tree, and the village green committee will have input into what sort of tree they replace that with.
Are we paying for the tree?
Well, that was my, that's probably Richard's next question. We could offer, or we can see if council will dig into. We haven't offered to fund the tree.
No. Who offered, I mean, who paid for that landscaping? That the village, was it the Village Green Society?
I would imagine, yeah, I think the tree belongs to.
Yeah, it belongs to.
Or the land must belong to council.
It's gifted to council, I believe.
Yeah,
Remember?
so
The land is council.
land is council, so which is why they can take the tree.
They must have bought it then, because it used to
It's
be.
gifted. It's gifted.
Oh, it's gifted, was it?
It was funds were raised in the community, and then once they bought the land,
Yeah.
it's gifted to
Yes,
council.
and then, but it's overseen and managed by the committee.
Right, because Peter Finn's a part of that committee, so my concern was that he was involved with landscape, choosing those trees.
He did, and he's
good
come
for him to know that
he has said at a couple of village green committee meetings that it was the wrong tree.
Has he?
Yes.
Because we struggle in the hospital basement price too.
So yes, Lynn has suggested an albizia, which is a similar, it's a fast growing, spready tree, pretty flowers, very robust.
Leaves come off in winter.
I
Shade in
believe,
the summer.
I believe so, but it doesn't always see things that annoy people.
So if we had a Facebook set up, we'd post, wouldn't we? So
Yeah.
it's sad to say, Peter,
Yeah.
the tree's gonna go, and here's the reason why.
Right.
I would like to suggest a linden, which is what they have in Motueka in the main street a lot. The linden trees that we cut down, they're fast growing, good shade, and
Yeah.
Well,
again,
So
Village
yeah,
Society choice, I think.
yeah,
it's-
absolutely. Yeah, and Richard was happy when I suggested that that should be
the council pay.
Yeah, I think council. I
Society,
think so. I think somebody should pay.
half each.
And some of
we
we
can
can pay the arborists.
Yes, well, council pays for those for them.
Just keep your heads down.
I know, just keep quietly.
I did
But yes, it will be replaced with a mature tree.
I did make a suggestion
Sure
that,
is.
that it was only cut down to sort of a 2 metre height, and the rest of the trunk is carved.
Yeah. But unfortunately, that's where the tree will go. The replacement tree. They want it to be almost exactly
Same
like
place.
it never went.
I had a look at it. It was hard to see an obvious split. Must be that sort of different colour stuff and maybe see it.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty bad.
So that's very unfortunate news for the mediator. Right, well, that brings us to the end of the chair's report. So I'm happy to move that be received. And seconded by Ordinary Hewson. For those in favour?
Aye.
Lovely. Now, it is, what is the time? It is almost 3 o'clock. We've got probably not much more, not too many more things to go through, but would anyone like to break for a cup of tea for a cup of stuff? Right, we'll rattle on through. Well,
I do need to go to low, so.
go on then. 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
I'll follow you through and you can. 5. I'm so bring us back to our meeting after a quick comfort stop. Discretionary fund application. So there are 2. Well, there's one. There's one, sorry, and so the one we're looking at is an application from GBSRF, the shared recreation facility for the speed parade. So
Can't do it. It's been retrospective. We can't get any money because
That's what I was
it's gone.
wondering.
So
That's-
next, please.
That's what I
Sorry.
was wondering.
No, I mean, you know, it's just
It is one of the rules.
Yeah,
that we
it's
can't-
the first.
because we declined the football on the same thing.
Yeah.
Okay,
So
all right.
has this been as a result of our timing?
They could have gone in for last meeting.
Their timing.
Yes. They could have gotten in for last meeting.
This is what it's
Yeah,
already.
So we
in
write
those
to them
blocks.
and say.
We'll just say declined,
unfortunately,
unfortunately, the event's already happened.
Tom Lake's resigned now anyway. So.
I'm sure it was,
Yeah.
yeah.
Oh, well, there we go. Is everybody?
Did we say something extra like?
Sorry, I'll just bring Henry and Celia back into it. So we've just had a quick discussion about the centre parade.
Sorry.
Centre parade, the $500.
Oh, yes, sorry.
But unfortunately, the event's already happened, so it's a retrospective application. So it needs, unfortunately, doesn't meet our criteria.
Does it not meet our
No.
criteria? We don't do the rest. Sorry.
Do we write something along friendly in our response?
Yes.
Like, you know, of course, we've been likely happy to support.
Had this been done. Yeah.
Good.
Do they receive council funding?
And they also receive council funding for events, which is a conversation we've had before, and that will be very useful when we tighten up our criteria. We have staff information on that. Because they do also receive contract funding from TDC and the summertime event funding, which is also through TDC.
So I wonder what's gone wrong with their budget there, because maybe something crossed.
Yeah, the traffic management plan costs have increased.
Yeah.
This is not new though. This was a couple of years ago that these costs increased. So
$1,000 to close the roads. But yeah,
over the top.
But the traffic management plan they put, yeah, I mean this is not, but they put $400 and traffic comes funded $1,000 towards road management. So I'm not quite sure what the road closure management is. I'm not entirely sure because that should all be part of that TMP. So I'm not entirely, but they may have changed because I haven't done one for a couple of years. So, but anyway, so.
I don't actually see any of the budgets.
I didn't see any lollies.
No.
No.
A lot of people didn't.
It's a lolly.
That's not a lot.
It's not when you've got little kids.
No, and then this kid turns up with a bucket, and apparently there were no lollies left, so they gave this kid a bucket. The empty bucket. He was quite happy with an empty bucket.
This is the ad on TV for KFC. Kid wants the bucket.
Oh, that's it. Okay. Happy to take the financial report as read. And you cast your on looking at you now, going,
yeah,
he's there.
About the other one that's been withdrawn, just mention that.
No. Just because we accepted it as a late item. Yeah. So would someone like to move the financial report as accepted?
That we receive it.
Receive, sorry, not accepted, receive. Yes, thank you. Receive.
I can do it. I'll do it.
Board member. Who was in? Second. Jackson. All those in favour? Lovely. Thank you. Yeah. I feel like it's your job.
It's a bit over designed, isn't it?
So the action sheet. Oh, I did. Sorry. Someone was meant to shout at me. Is it too late to do the board member updates from their meetings? I was going to do it as part of the chair report, we were just doing it, couldn't we? Just part of the action. Sorry, I missed it on.
It was a late item.
I did have it as a late item. I was going to put it in the chair report, but we can just do it now for you. Just do it now. So does anyone have any updates?
I would just like to know how we are best to present this, whether we do it verbally or we do it as a written report, and that's probably a lot more work for us. But how are we going to do it?
If we could do it as part of the written report and the chair report, that would be ideal. So if I email everyone 2 weeks out, like I should do, and then if you guys get your stuff to me and I put it into the report, that's probably the
that's not you and Celia. That's just through us.
Yeah, reporting back on the full. Oh no, because you sit on full committees and things. But I mean, there may not be anything to report back on.
And what sort of level of content do you want?
Yeah.
Or what's the
what's the goal?
Yeah. The purpose of it. I think it's a good purpose. Yeah, it's a good thing to do. But what?
Would only be if there was something that was relevant.
Yeah. But like the roof needs work on a wall, or
actually.
Any
that's quite
issues?
helpful, because
Oh,
I
yeah.
was told that the.
Any issues from committees? Oh, right.
Yeah, I've got, I'm the committee, and yeah, there's a few other issues. as well.
I guess we get maybe positive.
I think if I imagine writing something in, I'd write a piece. For me, just to do a verbal thing,
It's
there to
easier.
say, you know,
I'm completely open to however the board wants to
as long
manage
as we
it.
do it by turns and it doesn't end in a big discussion or something.
And we'll give each other a 5-minute limit. Because it's not a discussion, it's just an update.
So, are we talking about, sorry, what are we talking about, the committees or the?
Yes. So any committees you sit on, including council one.
Okay.
So are we happy with verbal?
Yes.
Happy with verbal?
Yeah.
Okay, so
Absolutely.
go, Grant.
Yeah, the whole committee in Pahara had a market. They haven't really had a proper meeting, but they had a market, and that was some mixed reaction in there. They need to sort out a few plans. I'm just getting my head around that, so it's all a bit new, and I'll leave it there just at this point. I think they've been let run a little bit loose. So yeah, and the other meeting was I haven't had to vote about it. So no.
Oh, but we need the fund, you know, so we need to.
Well, I did.
But you.
Yeah, that's yeah.
Yeah.
So that's the part of it. So I'm happy to be that person. What's your link?
Yep. So at the meeting with Manawhenua, Chris, they've given the decision back to us that they say we're happy with what we decide. So, and I feel that Grant has that great existing relationship with them. So I'd be very supportive of Grant continuing to be that UK person. On the 9th, we should all have that in our calendars too.
But they turned around what was going to be here into their invite to take it on to the night, which is quite a significant gesture.
Yes.
I thought it was always going to be at the
No.
right.
No, it's going to be yours.
Right,
So an offer to go onto the right has to come from.
Yeah, I thought Jenna had always said it was going to be.
No.
Yeah.
Right, okay.
No, Jenna thought it, or and I'm feeding back through having discussed it with Jenna. She thought that was a really, really important gesture.
Yeah.
That it had been to take that offer and take it on to the right.
Invite staff as well from here.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was quite, they were connecting their interest with the interests of the board, noting that we are there to support them and the council is here to support you. So effectively, Haku and the whānau are welcome to be part of the occasion. So it was quite a very considered.
So that's
on the
Not just them.
which is
Been a bit of work go into that all around, so I've had conversations too with Jenna about what it is, you know, how we, who was me and it's been a rolling thing.
Okay.
They've landed in quite a construction.
Right.
Oh, yes, it's in our diaries.
So, well, that's great. It's a really significant step for in rebuilding the relationship with you. So yeah, as I said, I'm more than happy for Grant to be representative on Manawhenua. Everybody.
Yep.
Great.
Sure. Does it need to be
I
resolved?
don't. Did
No,
we
we
redo the last one?
Yeah, last one's no.
Did we do
It was a resolution.
Is it?
So you just chopping it up now, do you? Is there anything more to report while we wait?
Well, I'll let Chris report about the meeting we had today.
Sure. Great. Hearing anything update?
From my end, the Terra Korea meetings just postponed, it's been rescheduled for the 20th. That was going to be earlier, but
Great. You might be interested in the meeting on tomorrow, 5:30 at Mahara Hall, the wineries backpatches.
Oh,
Yeah.
Chairing
Yeah,
that,
so I'm
Celia.
chairing that,
Yes.
yeah.
So that's tomorrow, 5:30 to Mahara Hall. Mahara Hall.
It's what it's about is it's just a meeting tallies and the residents of Waitangi, which is the it's under the content management area, which was set up in the 90s, and the arrangement is that they tallies who essentially owns the Spat Kitchen meets on a regular basis, and I think you shared it last time.
Yeah, I've done it for a few times, and Kono's there was a few.
Yeah,
different-
there's
it
a
wasn't
few.
just Tallies, it was about 4 companies that came.
Well, we'll see who comes. The person I've been dealing with is Spat Tallies.
Yeah, so Andy's organised it on behalf of Tallies, but everyone will be there.
Yes.
what time is that?
5:30.
At the Pohara Hall.
Yeah.
So where did you do it?
Yes, I'm assuming that Andy would have.
20%.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Or
more,
put
it's
off, or-
actually about the interface, and it's about the effects on the residents.
Yeah, the
That's
noise.
actually what the
Yeah.
issue is.
About farmers, we're part of the consortium. for
Yeah.
Farmers as well.
Yeah.
It was the best back catch.
Yeah. Sorry,
Ah,
now this
perfect,
was to
that's
be
a good idea.
discussed as part of the board, report.
Yes,
So we can add that as an item,
lovely.
on the resolution.
Perfect.
Then
What- Yeah, I'm happy.
Robert,
you're
Yeah.
happy? Right.
Has this just been amended on?
Just to nominate Grant as the liaison representative, yeah.
We probably need, I think we need to go around it just to formalise it because we'll be approve a report and then something later. Then we passed your report. And we'll get this.
okay, then put that as a separate one.
Well, no, but I think
You're probably right, yeah.
we need to stick to the correct process.
Yeah.
I think.
Okay. So that will have to be separate somewhere. He did that. I'll just made somewhere. Sorry.
Aerodrome.
Yeah.
Ian Orange is the chair of that.
Okay.
And Christina Ewan, the enterprise. Who's the contact of Dick Victoria.
I haven't so when those meetings are. Thank you.
Yeah, great. Okay, so that's the government community board nominee, with the chair, Noel, with the board liaison representative from Manawhina from Mohua. I am happy to move that. Can I have a second, please? Seconded by Councillor Butler. All those in favour? Aye. Great. So Celia, did you have anything to report back from?
Gone back motions, yeah, so they're in dialogue with transport and waste engineers just about the setup up at the Vista Centre car park. But that, that will be resolved. The issue of where the recycling and the rubbish containers are by the Vista Centre. And now that they've got all the big campings back after COVID, it's like a bottleneck. So the dumping station is moving down to Motor Street, and they don't want to put the
recycling rubbish that's there either. In addition, because they're not able to be supervised. So that's a discussion that's going on with Mr. So I'm not involved in that, but I have encouraged and supported them to do a submission to the Tasman about the township. So they're doing it.
Chris,
Which need to be entertained.
No, I was going to say, you know, if anyone's been in touch with a number of big dog parties at the Valley coming, they're all zero waste. So,
Yeah,
you
right.
know, where's all that, the zero waste going to go once they take it out of there?
Yeah, we've had this on our agenda, haven't we?
Eddie and I went to meetings with people, like, just continue to bring more.
yeah, they're not required, they don't require resources in things like that, so they just laughed at it.
But even like putting in their material online,
We tried.
We can tell, and they do that. Some of them do that, but the people, the actual participants don't. Look. Yeah, seriously. That's
yeah.
the problem.
Yeah, so yeah, but we have talked to the waste engineers and that's what we thought.
Yeah, so David was here at our last meeting.
That's right, I'm just trying to remember.
Yeah, so they've got two different contractors and yeah, they are working harder with them. And hopefully this year we won't have the pizza box waste, which created a huge issue last year just because they don't fit in the rubbish bin. And if you do get one in, then it blocks everything else. But so hopefully, fingers crossed, we've got a workable thing, but we'll just have to keep monitoring.
I think we'll have.
Yeah, and Grant's actually really, really great at that.
I just walk up and down the street every day. A couple
He
of
doesn't
times
leave them away with it.
take photographs.
So yeah, and leave us on to David.
Right.
So it's
Put it
great.
on Facebook.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Name and shame.
So I saw that Twisted Frequency was advertised on Sunday stuff.
Yes.
Oh wow.
That big. That big. 5,000 people.
How do we get engaged with them? So they
I've
don't
got
need
the
a consent either.
Deed, I've got his.
They don't let it sit, but it's a ticketed event. I don't understand how they're quickly around the rules, but they manage.
They could have recycling.
Do you want to phone number?
Skips.
We've tried. Yeah.
Got the organiser's phone
Email
number.
it to me. Email it to me.
Yeah, easy. Oh, I can give it to everybody in this room if you like. We can all bring it.
Have you met with him particularly?
I've met with him several times. He plays band a lot.
Okay, Chris, anything from your committee?
Just to say that last term I was the chair of the awards committee at the council. So the community awards, we got it done 20 years. So yeah, things and those were approved the last term, but the presentation's only just been made. I was down south for a week, so I couldn't be there, but Pam and Donald Gardner given awards and Joan Riley. So I thought we might like that. Yeah. I guess we've got some polls coming out, something around that.
Was that publicly in here?
No, and in the past we've asked the Golden Bay ones to have it here.
And they
And
did.
when I made that request about this, these people were happy to go to a hill and to see them. But it happened with neither Celia or I could attend. And just to say, just a couple of, it kind of sort of covers a few different things that aren't necessarily to do with, so over in Richmond, a couple of days ago, we had the local government review panel came and presented a sort of another round to council and other councils and other folk. So I just know that's happening. And that was quite.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking that Gail would maybe come and see to the submissions for the draft plan of the government due in at the end of the I'm just thinking that she's actually moving to Golden Bay. She's going to be part of the Harvest Street household, but she's on the plan for local government review. So, because, you know, this is another thing of submission,
where we've already been down the track of the local board. It's a huge process, but this is actually along the same lines. And well, it's not the same lines, but it's about local government. It's about the future of local government.
The presentation might be quite
useful. There's a lot of information available about this, and I think that's where we each need to make sure we're reading what's on their website.
They email us updates as well.
The draft report, and there's been just a recent commentary from them. Yeah, so Gail's got a big background and has had a significant role in Auckland City Council. And this panel was ministerially appointed, you know, so and so she's coming out of Christmas sometime here, and she's keen to contribute to the community and us and what we do, you know, once she's in October next year. But, so she's a real asset to having come and live in our community. It's big community development background. Right. Oh yeah, so that was helpful today, I think, to have come and
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Come along and Tim. Maya.
Yeah.
You say Maya?
Sorry.
So you say,
Take out the units, just what she just
Maya.
just sort of saving,
Maya.
saving pronunciation. Yeah.
okay.
So I met with her with Cynthia and Heather. And a good discussion, I think good for us to see again some of the issues. A reef heron came along, very rare sort of bird, 2 or 3 in the bay or something, not really anywhere. But I think the discussion was sort of identifying the various parts of the sort of puzzle and sort of coming in, you know, so we talked about how the solution's not easy, and it needs to have a wide perspective and be effective. And my regularly chair reporter requested a report back to staff around the issue that's raised by to do where we should. So the number of parts of that puzzle sort of coming together can might add something more coherent than that.
Well, no, that's very coherent. But on top of that, so that the issue of quad bikes is about the damage to the biodiversity that is created on that side of the plant, so that the flora or the fauna in the form of birds. And birds are there for breeding, feeding, roosting. There's a whole variety of things across the bay. There's been a report produced recently from our biodiversity folk, and it's been taken to the operations committee. And what it does is it assesses the value of the shoreline area of Tasman Bay and Golden Bay.
Yeah.
And the value on the international, regional, or local stage. And what it's basically indicating is that value has increased. And so, in other words, the services or the ecological services that are being presented to these birds is increasing in value. And the metric around that is numbers. So the more birds that are found, it's deemed to be the more significant the habitat is for their existence. So we've got this sort of heightened awareness coming in regards to the value that areas like Fieldsborough and the area that we looked at today serve. And we've got some management recommendations that sort of sit to the side of that. Now, they're not doled into any of the systems that we operate that come from the authors of the report. But what it tells us is that there's a growing level of, almost stewardship required for our bird populations in the bay. That might be what we were looking at there as one of the particular hotspots. And it's around the roosting area. And quad bikes are notorious for disturbing birds. And in some cases, there's only 1 or 2 listing of various types, even though the numbers are increasing. The information we were shown today is there's some that are still really quite threatened. Now, Trevor James, the author of all our report, is very keen to come over here and talk to you. He just hasn't managed to get it on his radar screen. But it's been to the operations committee, it needs to come here to give a grounding for, just what it is that they're finding and seeing.
Right.
Right, yeah, they're legal, yeah.
What he wrote, written, if you could have the right. Paper that's come out.
Well, there's 2 or 3 ones, isn't there? Yeah. So there's you normally separate a little bit science and management advice, but they're sort of one hat. Here's the science, take the other hat on, here's the management. Well, he's keen and he's asked me just to signal his interest in coming over, and we've got to put him on the agenda.
Yeah. Thank you, Kim. Much more coherent than I. And you would have seen about the Tata boat, the Tata survey came through. But just to say that Terry and someone else are the only people on the committee with a boat ramp. It's a little boat ramp committee that's owned by, it's not a council owned thing, so there's this committee that's responsible for maintenance things. So that's just something that's come onto my radar.
The Tata Beach.
Tata Beach boat ramp. And so and they've had permission to put a full hard box there for people to put money in when they launch their boat. But we need to help, I think, in getting the committee a bit more formed and stronger there. We did the Golden Bay Kayak Open Day yesterday, which was invited tourists and tourist businesses in, and Grantford too. So that was a good event, and they were all going to then go up to that glamping site on the hill. And just a couple of quick updates, if I may. Grandstand, you might know this. I've pulled this email. I've been asked about the issues around the drainage. People aren't confident the drainage plan's going to work. We'll come back to say it will. There's been an assessment of that. An end date of November was in place for the grandstand. Now looking at the week of the 9th to complete. It's definitely available for AMP show.
The show, yeah.
And there's one other thing just about the Pukewa seawall, a decision coming next week.
Christmas presents, hopefully.
Oh,
I think it's
I think we can take that off the
with this, once we get to that. Yeah, Robert, any updates from various committees?
No, there's nothing. Can I just confirm as part of the process, like we made those decisions last meeting, do they formally get notified of the representation?
Yes, I would like to know that first if I don't. Oh, right. Well, yes, okay.
I assume it goes through Jess.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'll add that to our list to fix it. Yeah, that's Wednesday's list. Cool. Thanks, Robert. Good checking. I just assumed it this magically. Yeah. I tried. Magically, a contact list from where of all of those organisations. Wow. Okay, we need to work on that.
So the people over the hill actually,
the halls, Jane will have all the halls ones. Yeah. But I haven't managed to run John down here either to talk to him about the police and fire thing. That Dave just listed on. I don't even know if it's a thing. I will find out.
Well, I spoke to Noel Badgen about the RSA and he wasn't even aware that there was a wet on there.
No. I think that's the problem. It's fallen off, and that was Dave.
Dave was on it. They didn't go to any of these things, so that's why people don't know it's better more.
Yeah. Yeah. That's probably.
It was on Aerodrome and a bunch of others.
Yeah, it's probably a very good point. Okay, so that kicks us into our action sheet. Should we take the Pukewa seawall off, or should we leave it on until we get a decision?
Good to get a decision, I think.
Yeah, I'm wondering, should we just leave it on?
And then it'll be something.
Yeah.
Well, it was on there because we had certain action to do to try and push it along. But I actually, sorry to disagree, but I actually think our role is finished in that. And if there's another action that comes forward, seawall, we have put it on again.
I guess it was just because Nigel requested that we keep it on our board radar until the outcome was complete.
Okay.
So I'm happy to leave it. I do hear what you're saying though. Road occupations. Dave and Kim. Oh, Dave's gone. He's gone, Kim. It's all you. So that's the that's
the container.
No. That's the pipes or what have you going through Cobbett, Council One Cobbett,
And paper roads.
and through
Using
paper roads, so
roads.
council have required that you put in drainage or what have you, and then they charge you because it's got to go through their Cobbett.
Dave wanted something like that.
Yeah, he did. I'd like
a
a
change in policy.
He wanted a policy change, yeah.
To do with what we use it, putting.
Yeah, so you're putting pipes through under a council drain or through
But sort of having occupying.
occupying, yeah.
Occupying a piece of land. I don't know.
Yes.
if it was
And the
25,
council
but
charge
it
you
was-
a yearly fee.
It's just an example, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is.
They'll always charge you the pipes, it's just remote bits of land, that would break sheet on the head of road.
Oh, yes, she's on paper road, yeah, but yeah.
I don't have an interest in there being a different approach particularly.
Okay, that, come on.
Well, I just might.
I, no.
Definitely surveys that.
Community.
We can start it up again.
Yeah.
If we need to.
If someone brings it to
Dave
the
might
board,
want to come forward.
Yes.
That's right.
Sorry, I think.
So community community communication can come off. We have a plan, I've changed it. And we can confirm with the liaison positions can come off as well. We confirm with the team. We're going to clarify with Godmate on this committee. Are they still here?
What it was.
Let me, okay, maybe we'll leave that on and I'll add that to our list for Wednesday of chasing down committees. So I'm happy to move that the action report be accepted. Seconded by Debbie Chenell, all in favour. And I have identified a slight process issue with the way we are dealing with items from public forum. I just suddenly realised I've delayed stuff by another month by going back to staff. I should have had all that information in my year report for a decision to be made on instead of going, oh, should we request a staff report? So that's on me. Process has now been refined and identified as not great. So I'll fix it and going forward it'll be smoother.
It'll be what?
Smoother. Oh, what? It seems down.
No. I'm just trying to get my head around what so that the change will be to.
So instead of me saying I suggest we request a staff report,
Yes.
I will just request the information from staff to have in my tier report. It's now
forum items.
Yes, because now I've delayed. Yeah. So that's on me. Sorry, Ted.
Well, no, I'm just finding a way through this.
Yeah, providing process. So all good. But that brings us to the end of our meeting. Thank you to Sarah. Nice to have you there. And we'll get a date that suits you guys to have a day in the bay. Chris, can I
Sure.
just pass on character?
Sure. Come get tātou. Tātou mai ngā hua o te tai ao, mai a whakatū ki tātou te tai. Kia rangi nui e tū i honau. Tūturi whakamau ki e Tina hui kai nō.
Good, okay. Oh, have a great Christmas, everybody.
Oh, and I'm just quite enjoying being here at 1 o'clock on a Monday.
Yeah.
It was so weird though. All day you sound like I've
You're
got time.
surprised yourself.
I've got time.
You're surprised.